Man, oh man, it's been a crazy day here. Yesterday, there was a lot of police activity around, and turns out that there was a couple of felons that were fleeing, and they crashed, and then they ran away. And then I guess they caught one guy, and the other guy boarded himself up. Anyway, today there's another felon running around, and my kids in school or learning center, and they went on lockdown. So it's been one crazy, crazy 2 days. I don't know what's going on around me. Anyway, thank you for joining me here at American Overwatch, where we're going to talk about who the hell is Tom Steyer, and why did he just pop up out of nowhere? So, the last 3 Democratic debates, he hasn't been there. So why did he just show up now, and who is he? Well, let me give you a little bit of history about who Tom Steyer is, because I had no idea who this guy was, why he was a billionaire, and what his cup of tea was. So let me give you a little bit of history, and then I'll tell you why I think he's in the race all of a sudden. So Tom Steyer was born in 1957, which I think makes him roughly 62. His father was from Jewish descent, and his mother was Episcopalian. Anyway, it's significant, and it's significant because people equate President Trump to neo-Nazi and fascist and white supremacists and all this stuff, and it's just simply not true. I can't tell you how far from the truth that is. It's just absolutely absurd. Not every Trump supporter is a neo-Nazi, fascist, white supremacist, nationalist. It's just absolutely ridiculous to even just make that. I can't. I'm so lost for words that this is being perpetuated by Antifa and the mainstream media and all this crap. This is. I don't understand where this stuff is coming from. It's just absolutely insane. That's not to say that there aren't white supremacists out there who don't support someone because they believe in those same beliefs. It doesn't work the other way around, guys. The president of the United States is espousing his beliefs and his ideology, and then those that are nut jobs who subscribe to similar ideologies does not make President Trump a white supremacist. It just means that white supremacists like the ideology. It doesn't work the other way around. That logic, that fallacy is just really frustrating. And the reason why I bring it up is because the SPLC, who also propagates most of this misinformation, is the top 5 major donors are from Jewish centers and Jewish communities. So it's really starting to become problematic with the propaganda and the misinformation and the disinformation campaigns perpetuated by mainstream media and Antifa and these social justice groups that just simply do not know who it is they're talking about. It's absolutely disgusting what it is that these people are doing. So that's why it's important to understand culturally and ethnically where people come from, because it gives a little bit of credence to what it is and why it is they feel the certain way that they do towards certain people. So anyway, enough of that. In 1979, Steyer graduated from Yale. He started working for Morgan Stanley. I think he was there for a few years. Then he moved over and started studying business in Stanford. I guess he worked for Goldman Sachs while he was doing that for a couple of years. Also in 1983, he was helped run Walter Mondale's presidential campaign. I have no idea who that is, I'm going to be honest with you. But what's significant is in 1986, he founded Farallon Capital, which is a hedge firm in San Francisco, California. This is where he made his fortune. By the time he stepped down, the firm was managing right around 20 billion. Significant amount of money that it was managing. In 2000, he helped raise money for Bill Bradley, and in 2004 for John Kerry, who was Secretary of State for Obama. 2006, Steyer and his wife, Kat Taylor, founded One Roof Inc. Now, this is crazy, right? I, you know, one of the issues I have with these bleeding heart progressives and these liberals is the the overwhelming concern for others, but not within the nation. The overwhelming concern for others outside of the nation in other countries. They have no allegiance to the United States. None. None. When you stand up and we used to say, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. That meant something, guys. That meant something. And now it doesn't, because we don't say it anymore. We don't say it in schools. How many adults can even recite that? It's just insane to me. Okay, One Roof Inc. What do? They provide, or I don't know if they're still in business or not, but when they were founded, they were designed to provide broadband connectivity to rural towns in India and Mexico. Small rural towns in those two countries. Why? Why? There are countless small rural towns in the United States that do not have access to broadband internet, especially in 2006. Listen, it was 2011, 2012, where I was in rural town Maryland, where people could not get the internet. You had to get a mobile hotspot about the size of this, and it sat on your nightstand or your entertainment center or whatever, and you connected to cellular data, and you got your high-speed internet through that. When you have more than one device connected to your mobile hotspot, it sure as hell wasn't high speed. And what's the difference between that and using your phone as a mobile hotspot? There's none. Absolutely none. The only difference is that maybe you might be able to get like some sort of break on your how much money you're spending per month on your plan. But trust me when I tell you this, guys, in the United States, we do have it great, but there are places that can be better. There are places that can be better. And in 2006, for these two yahoos to think it's perfectly okay to go to small rural towns in India and Mexico and provide them broadband connectivity when there are plenty of rural towns here in the United States that need it, why not do your countrymen and women a favor and provide that service to them at a discounted rate? I don't understand why do you have to go 7, 10, 15,000 miles away to provide broadband connectivity to these people? Like, why? I don't understand that. That's just so absurd to me. I said 15,000 miles. I don't even know if the circumference of the earth is 15,000. But you get what I'm saying. So, anyways, in 2007, Steyer and Taylor, his wife, founded a beneficial state bank investing. They invested $22.5 million to start this bank up. Okay, guys. Now, you would think, okay, well, what's the big deal? They're just business folks, right? Just business folks. Okay. Well, they started a community development bank to help provide commercial banking services to underserved businesses in the Bay Area, to include nonprofits, individuals, and small business. Well, so what? I'll give you the so what. This guy, Tom Steyer, has bashed big banks for predatory lending practices, to not lending to anyone at all. It's he runs the whole gambit on this. And that's significant to understand, because he starts a bank up in 2007, guys. He starts a bank up and then he starts bashing these guys. He wants to see return on his investment. He's doing what Rockefeller did, what Edison did, what Nikola Tesla did all back in their day, right? He's doing what these guys are doing, or did back then. He's propagating fear and coercing a populace to buy his product. And he's investing millions of dollars in ads to do it. I got proof right here, guys. Listen, he was an early supporter of Hillary Clinton in 2008, and then became the most prolific fundraiser for Obama. He co-chaired No on Proposition 23 in 2010. Now, No on Proposition 23, if you don't know what it is, Proposition 23 was California's legislature's way of kind of putting a pause on a law they had passed in 2006, which stated that California, the state of California, would reduce its emissions, carbon dioxide emissions, by 50% and return its levels from by 2020 to previous levels of 1990. And what happened was the unemployment rates in California spiked to about 12.4%, and they hadn't seen unemployment rates to about less than 5.5% for a few decades. So what they were trying to do was say, you know what, let's take a pause on this, let's get our unemployment under control, and then we'll resume this sort of renewable energies deal that we're looking at. And that was Proposition 23. And naturally, this Yahoo, Tom Steyer, he's like, whoa, no. And he invested like $5 million in ads to defeat this proposition. It's ridiculous how much money he's spent on a lot of stuff. He also joined, in 2011, he also joined the board of Next Generation. And 2012, he stepped down to focus on advocating for renewable energies. Okay. Also in 2012, he started pressing Obama and other Democrats regarding the Keystone Pipeline. And then in 2013, he founded the Next Gen Climate, which is basically a foundation for environmental advocacy and climate change and global warming. Now, in that same year, Steyer spoke at the Keystone Pipeline rally where tens of thousands of people attended, and it was organized by this guy named Bill McKibben, who attempted to convince Steyer to tie himself up to the White House gates in support of the protest and advocate against the Keystone Pipeline and advocate for climate change. And he hoped that he would basically get arrested and become sort of this martyr in protest. Well, Tom Steyer's brother, Jim, was like, bro, don't do that. That's stupid. So he didn't do it. But that's crazy, right? I mean, like, you would consider that. So then he's like, nah, I'm not going to do that. But what I will do is I'll go speak at your protests for you. So anyway, smart move on you, Mr. Steyer, because I think if you tied yourself up to the White House gates, you probably wouldn't be a candidate. 2000, or maybe Antifa would vote for you. I don't know. Steyer spent $74 million in 2014 on midterm elections. Think about that, guys. Think about that. $74 million, okay, in midterm elections. So he was helping other people around the nation in their own districts garner seats in Congress. The man is in California. He's investing millions of dollars in candidates who represent constituents that aren't even in his state. Think about that, guys. This is how this stuff gets propagated. This is how, the fear-mongering and all this other stuff gets propagated, is because somebody with millions of dollars, billions of dollars, who has the capacity to run ads around the clock for $10 million, which he did. Let's see, when did he do that? There it is. A couple years ago he did that, right? Spent $10 million for television ad campaigns advocating for the impeachment of President Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? Like, you spend this amount of money on ad campaigns to educate the public against your adversaries, what you see as your adversaries, and what you earnestly believe is the right thing to do, but you're dead wrong. You're dead wrong. You're absolutely wrong, and it's insane to me that people with this statute, with this amount of money, can basically force their will on people, force their beliefs on people through propaganda, guys. Propaganda. That's what he's doing. He's spending money to propagate fear, instill fear in the American populace that the world's going to end by 2030. In the next 12 years, we're all going to die from CO2. If you were around for Y2K, you know what the hell I'm coming from, guys. I mean, the world was going to end. I think there was like 3 world catastrophes, like Armageddon was going to happen in my lifetime. I'm 32 years old, guys. 3 catastrophes, world-ending catastrophes that were going to happen in my lifetime. Y2K, I remember distinctly. And they were like, listen, all the computers are going to crash, the lights are going to go crazy, all the traffic's going to crash, the energy grid's going to crash, all this stuff's going to happen, the financial market's going to crash, all because the belief was, this is absurd to think about, and I was terrified then, okay, but I knew better. But I was terrified because as a kid, I thought that was like, I think I might have been like 12 or 13, but I felt the fear around me. I felt people who didn't quite understand how computers worked. I felt that fear. But I knew how computers worked. I was more well-versed in computers then than most adults were. And I was just like, this doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, but I still felt that fear. And when Y2K came and went and nothing happened, allegedly the government spent billions of dollars of taxpayer money to prevent this from happening, and they did it so successfully. But the clocks just went from 1999 to 000, and then 01, and then 02, and then 03, and then, it just... The time demons just kept going. Nothing happened, to my knowledge, unless there's some sort of top secret report that I'm not aware of that's either been disclosed or been leaked. But anyways, that's what this guy is all about. He's all about propagating fear. And so he started investing money in renewable energies, and he started pressing the president on a Keystone pipeline to reduce our imports of fossil fuels and create more dependency on renewable energy, which he invested money in. And he created a foundation to focus on it. And then he spent $74 million on midterm elections to get those who support his renewable energies deal elected across the nation, to get them into the House. He testified in front of California Congress in favor of the greenhouse gas reduction bill in 2015, so to reduce dependency on fossil fuels and to create dependency on renewable energies. He created the Stanford, what do you call it? Basically, it was a Tomcat Center for Renewable Energies at Stanford, and he invested millions of dollars in that. I think it was like $22.5 million in that. No, I'm sorry, that's from the bank. Let me see if I can pull it up right quick. Anyway, yeah, so he's created that. Basically, it's a center at Stanford University that focuses on creating renewable energies and focusing on innovating batteries and prolonging lives and batteries and stuff like that. And so while it's not a bad thing, I don't disagree with renewable energies. I just think renewable energy should come into the economy on its own without the assertion that the world's going to come to an end, without the fear of billionaires propagating this stuff. You know what I mean? They're just saying, oh, the world's going to come to a screeching halt if you don't switch over to renewable energies. Oh, by the way, I also have renewable energies, and I also invested millions of dollars in renewable energy. So if you don't do that and you don't buy my products, the world's going to end. You see what I'm saying? You see where I'm going with this stuff? It's absolutely insane. Now, the guy, Tom Steyer, he might be thinking to himself, listen, I'm actually doing this for the betterment of humanity and the betterment of the earth, and that's fine and dandy. You have a global notion and you have a noble belief that that you're gonna do something good with your money and do something good for humanity. But let's be clear. Let's look. He's not a climatologist. He's not a physiologist. He's not an astrophysiologist. He does not have any scientific background whatsoever in this industry at all. None. So he goes and testifies in front of the California state legislature about all this. So what gives this man any credibility? The fact that he's got a foundation that's called Next Gen Climate. He's got what? Scientists that support the claim, who also get federal funding and investment in renewable energies and grants, who support the claim to continue the federal funding and grant systems that are in place so they can continue getting the money that they receive. It's cyclical, guys. It's cyclical. They get the money from the federal government, from the taxpayers, right, to fund these federal grants in renewable energies because they believe that the progressives believe that global warming is going to cause catastrophic events in the next 12 years. They get the money from the federal government to invest that into renewable energy and things like that, that create and renew and innovate their own products that they sell to the American people, and in turn create dependency on renewable energies, and then create fear against fossil fuels. It's insane what they're doing. It's absolutely insane. Now, see, listen, I'm all about renewable energy as in terms of it's free. Okay, but what's going to happen is, let's just say Jack decides that he wants to go and get a windmill and stick it at the top of my roof, right? And I get this big old fan sticking out of the top of my roof, and I want renewable energy. Now, what is it? How much is it do you think it's going to cost me to put that in my house, to have that wind turbine sticking out of my roof, even if the city ordinance would allow me to do so, and even if county ordinance would allow me to do so, and a HOA would allow me to do so? If I wanted a windmill sticking out of my roof, okay, how much money do you think it would cost me to get that in my house? Do you think that it would cost thousands of dollars where I would have to finance it and pay it over a lifetime, an absurd amount of money? And in turn, do you also think that I would ever own such a thing to where I would have just free energy? I would be absolutely not dependent on any energy business at all. And then furthermore, if you take out the energy provider altogether, because I now have my own sense of energy provisions, who's going to service the wind turbine if it breaks? Do I have to, is it a lot of money? Is the technician going to cost me a lot of money? Do I have to have like a service plan? And if I do, is that going to cost me a certain set amount of money? Is it going to cost me $200 a month or even $150 a month, where I'm on the service plan and I get free service updates on my renewable energies? You see what I'm saying? There's a subscription to have here. There's a subscription to services. So when people get these renewable energies, it's not necessarily renewable in the sense that you're not paying a monthly bill to fossil fuel companies. It's renewable in the sense that you're paying a service fee to technicians to come out and service your renewable energy source. And, they might cut that bill in half to garner more support for renewable energies. But let me tell you something. The technology is not there to offset the amount of energy that people consume from renewable energies. So the technology is not there right now, and that's the problem I have, is that the technology isn't there to get Americans to switch, and they're forcing this down people's throats because they're making early investments, and they're trying to get the funds and the research and the money to create these innovations in technology from the federal government, and they're doing that through fear. And that's the problem I have. And this is who Tom Steyer is, guys. So you need to pay attention to him. You need to watch him closely because this guy came out of nowhere. He came out of left field. He was in political. He was a political advocate and activist for a long time. He supported presidents throughout his tenure, and he's been raising millions of dollars for Democrats underneath the basically the exposure. And now he's basically stepped out into the limelight in the fourth Democratic debate before the votes begin, and he says, "Here I am, guys. Here I am to save the day," because all the Democrats basically suck, and they don't have anybody to run. And in the Democratic debate, he says, "I'm the only billionaire with the business education and the business knowledge to run competitively against Donald Trump in the 2020 elections." And that's what he said. So think about that for a second. He's trying to run off of the similar campaign style that President Trump had in 2020, and he's gonna bring in this this ultra high and mighty, I'm so great, look at me, look at what I've done for society mentality to this 2020 election. And mark my words, Tom Steyer is going to get the Democratic nomination. You heard it here first on American Overwatch. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Who the Hell is Tom Steyer? And we'll see you on the next one.